Thank you for being here. I have a few questions to start us out today. This is going to involve raising your hands. I know a lot of us are introverts, but just play along if you can. If not, that's okay. Raise your hand if you have ever experienced stress, anxiety, depression, disconnectedness. Pretty much all of us, I'm sure. Keep your hand raised. Keep your hand raised. If you've used mindfulness or meditation, or if you believe it can be useful for those states. Okay? Keep your hands up if you've used technology to catalyze that, to enhance that. And then one final question, still a couple hands up. If you've done that in a scientific manner. Oh, I like that. Okay, thank you. We're gonna get started. Just wanted to poll the audience to give you kind of an overview of how we're gonna approach this talk. You wanna say?
Yeah, we start. So this is going to be an interactive session, right? You're going to get most, rather than a boring lecture, we're going to be interactive. And I'm going to tell these three objectives again and again, right? The first one was, we all strive for happiness. Every little freaking thing we do is for happiness, love, joy, peace, right? But we don't realize that our brain was not designed for that. Our brain was designed only for two things: sex and survival, right? So that's the first topic we're going to talk about. The second topic is, how many of you remember the first time you rode your bike without training wheels? Raise your hands. How old were you, sir?
6.
6. Do you still remember it today? Right? And that is what we call an awakening. And I promise most of you are going to be awakened today. Not talking about nirvana, not about enlightenment, talking about awakening. And then the third one is, we need your freaking help. Because you saw, right, when we talked about scientific, have you studied your meditation practice scientifically? Nobody raised your hand, including myself. And I've been a practitioner for 20 years. So that's the structure, and I'm going to come back to that structure again and again. Oh, and by the way, my name is Sudesh Kannan. Most people call me Dr. K. And a quick story of how all this started out. I hated my meditation teacher. I hated my yoga teacher. High school, I was 16 years old. In India, it was mandatory, right? And everybody in my class was turning into a human pretzel. I could not, and I cannot still today. But one fine day, the teacher taught us shavasana. And if you know what shavasana means, it's the dead body pose. Any freaking idiot can do it. So I did it. And what he did was, he walked us through a rather gruesome situation. He said, imagine you're in a beautiful valley. Imagine you are by a riverside, and there's a funeral pyre. Because in India, we don't bury bodies, right? We burn them. So your body's in that funeral pyre, you're being burned, your physical essence is gone, and all is left is the spiritual essence, right? And as I'm telling you this, my body's filled with goosebumps, because I was there. I was lying in a floor, pretty dirty floor. In India, we didn't have yoga mats that time. Nobody figured it out till some American figured it out. And I was in a state of awakening. And like any true-blooded teenager, I promptly forgot about that experience till I started working on my PhD. And if any of you have done your PhDs here, any PhDs here? Got to be 1 or 2 PhDs. It's a freaking nightmare. Because you don't know when you're going to finish your PhD. And so I went back to meditation, right? So that's what my journey is about. And hopefully I'll share some of the key tips that we have a lot of misconceptions about meditation, including thinking it's all about nirvana, it's all about joy and things like that. So, sorry for a long one.
So my name is Darren Lawless. I'm a security guy, like probably a lot of you guys are. I've been doing it for 20 years or so. And I fancy myself a hacker. I'm probably a different sort of hacker than maybe a lot of you. I'm not digging into code. I'm not breaking code. I'm not rewriting code so much, but I'm surely in that space. And in the last 10 years or so, I've discovered the world of biohacking. So, and you know, what that is, we can get into that if you don't know what, you know, it's all of the things that might, and it's pretty broad, right? It's everything from hacking your nutrition to breathing and, you know, tech, actually like injecting tech into your body, and so the breadth is big, and so that's part of why I dig it. And I've poked into those spaces and I've learned a little bit. And at the same time, I've also kind of started exploring mindfulness states and trying to, you know, feel better, try to be less stressed. And I've had some success, right? So I have some anecdotal evidence for myself that says there's something happening here, and it seems viable and useful. And so that's my angle on this discussion, and I'm gonna let Jen go next.
So some of you are probably thinking, okay, Dr. K, you're a believer. You are drinking the Kool-Aid. You think that meditation and mindfulness is the answer to life, the universe, and everything?
After 42.
After 42. And Darren, a seeker, open to this. I'm going to introduce you to another archetype here, myself, kind of the skeptic, scientifically oriented, and some of you may identify with either the believer, the seeker, the skeptic, maybe all three. I want you to think about where you're aligned during this talk, because there's going to be something for everyone during this. So join us through this journey. As a skeptic, I just want to tell you just a little bit about myself and my background here and what this means for this talk. So I'm a security analyst. Been doing this for about 20 years, which makes me a little bit of a dinosaur, but we won't acknowledge that. And before I became a security analyst, or working in security and hacking, I actually studied neurology. And I worked as a neurobiofeedback technician and researcher. And that means, is anyone familiar with biofeedback? Okay, yeah, you're our scientist, aren't you? So biofeedback essentially is monitoring your biological state and altering something that you do in response to that. So we would take patients that had closed head injuries, trauma, physical brain trauma, or ADHD, and train them to change their brain patterns so they could achieve certain goals. Now, meditation, I'm sure, has a lot of anecdotal evidence that it can be useful. I have ADHD severely. You tell me to meditate, that's like torture to me. Have my mind just like be quiet? No, I can't do that. But I think what we want to do is analyze what meditation means, how we can use technology with that, and what it means to the believer, the seeker, and the skeptic. With that, Dr. K?
It's Dr. Kayser, and I just want to make a point. I feel a little bit like a strange, nerdy hip-hop group up here, weaving in and out with two microphones, and so forgive us if we break into rap.
So this section is going to be interactive because I want you to think about, I'm obsessed with the human brain, right? Any guesses, how many pounds is a human brain? Shout out the answer. 7 pounds? 100 pounds. 2.5 pounds. 2.5 pounds, okay? Less than 2% of body weight for most people here, right? How much energy does it consume? 100% energy. How much of that energy goes there? Shout out an answer. 50%, 10%, 25. It's 25 to 30%. Less than 2% of your body weight, right? And if you're like me, you probably eat 4 pounds of fruits and vegetables, drink 5 pounds of water, and then here's the magic number. 30 pounds of air. We breathe 30 pounds of air, of which about 16 to 20% is oxygen. Guess what? 25% goes to your brain. So this is the key thing, right? This thing between our head. And what's fascinating about this is there are 3 sections to it. And everybody put your thumbs together, put your thumb here, put your hands together like this, right? This thumbs here is the limbic system. This is the emotional part of us, right? I had a boss I hated, right? I would drive in, we both worked, we went all over the world, so there were good times when he was not there in the office or I was not there in the office. And I would drive into the parking lot and I would see his blue Toyota and I would get angry all over. How many of you have done that? Right? This is the key thing we forget to understand, right? We think we are rational creatures with feelings. That's bullshit. It's the opposite. We are emotional creatures and we have thinking as part of that. How many of you listened to Alicia Miller yesterday? Okay, Alicia Miller talked about videos changing people. And she was all about facts changing people. Bullshit. Facts never change people. Okay? What changes people is we make a decision emotionally, right? We see this boy or girl we like, and then we find reasons to like him or her more. And we wonder why we are so screwed up in our relationships. Right? How many of you have seen a friend going around with a girl who you know that's going to crash and burn in hell? Raise your hand. So this is the key point I want you to understand. If you understand this, Mother Nature gave us 4 gifts. Okay? I call them gifts within quotes. The first one is distractibility. Jen thinks she's got a unique ADHD brain. Guess what? I'm willing to bet all of us are distracted all the time. Raise your hand. How many of you are distracted all the time? Right? We're all distracted all the time. Why did Mother Nature give that to us, gift to us, right? 100,000 years ago, our brain was the bottom of the food chain. Right? A tiger walked by, saw a deer there, saw a human being there. Let me go after the human being because the deer is going to run really fast. 100,000 years is a short time for the brain to change. So you are always looking for trouble. How many of you are looking for trouble all the time? Raise your hand. All of us are looking for trouble, right? Second gift Mother Nature gave us is loneliness. I don't care how happily you are married, how your best boyfriend, girlfriend, you're lonely, right? Mother Nature figured that out for a reason. That's 100,000 years ago, I told you, right? 60,000 years ago, there's a cognitive. And I'm giving you these numbers just like, these are approximate numbers. We don't know for sure. We seem to have evidence, anthropological evidence. 60,000 years ago, we made this transition in social behavior, right? What is the fun thing? Is one-on-one, our nearest cousin, if I fight a chimpanzee, the chimpanzee wins hands down. But we are about 50 people here, 50 people against 50 chimpanzees, we win all the time. Why? Because we communicate with each other and say, let's put that fat guy in the front, let him die. Right? So this comes the ability to communicate. Right? So Mother Nature gave us a negative self-talk. And the negative self-talk is based on the future and it's from the past. And you're always thinking about that. Why? Because you had an ancestor who said, oh my God, we're going to all die if we don't store for food. And that gentleman's ancestor probably said, nah, we'll figure it out. When the time comes, we'll figure out food, right? And his ancestors died. Does that make sense? So Mother Nature rewarded negative thinking. Here's the problem. I haven't found an off switch for my negative thought. Anybody found a off switch for your negative button?
Lobotomy.
Lobotomy. And people do that, right? People do that. The last gift she gave us was meaning or purpose. I call her she because I think Mother Nature like my mother. And my mother always gave me gifts, And this was one of the gifts. So all these 4 things, right, they come back to haunt us. Distraction, negative self-talk, loneliness, meaning. And here's the thing about meaning. You want love, joy, and peace in your life, find meaning. And meaning is a made-up story. Whatever you believe, but it has to be there. Because if you don't find a meaning or purpose in your life, your brain will say, let's watch all the remaining Netflix movies I've not watched. How many of you have been there? So why am I talking about this with meditation? Our brain was not designed for happiness. I hope you can see that, right? The second thing is we're going to have stress till we die. So Dr. K, this is bad news. What's the good news? The good news is the next slide. Is the next? Okay. The brain can be trained for love, joy, and peace. Now, if this sounds too hippie for you, too touchy-feely for you, there's neuroscientific evidence for the 4 characteristics. It's connection, optimism, resilience, and I call it energy, but you call it purpose. Very easy. And where is meditation come? Meditation is nothing but exercising your brain for all those 4. There are literally hundreds of meditation techniques, and we're going to try some of those. Raise your hand if you're willing to try. Excellent. Am I missing some points so far?
No, not at all. But I would say that if you're one of the folks that are skeptical, but you happen to be an athlete or a musician, I would even argue some coders fall into this space, and hackers even, and you know that state where everything is what you're doing at that moment. Athletes call it flow, those kind of things. If you have that skepticism, but you've experienced those kind of things, I think what you've really experienced is something very similar, if not exactly the same, as those meditative states that we're talking about. So
excellent. So let's get 3 volunteers. First one, who's a skeptic? Who says, hey, this is all crap. John, can you please join us here, sir?
Sure.
Who's a believer? Who's drunk the Kool-Aid already? Come on. What's your name?
Shannon.
Shannon, come on. What's your name, sir? I met you.
Rodney.
Rodney, come on. Okay, I want somewhere in between. Say, okay, I can buy this crap if it works for me. In between. What's your name, ma'am?
Caitlin.
Caitlin, come on. Okay, we're going to hook you up to some complex, sophisticated device. It's not really sophisticated. It's a temperature measurement.
yeah, I think that's actually an interesting point, right? These are just simple devices. If you've got smartwatches, if you've got Fitbits, you know, we're talking about simple biofeedback here.
Just hold this here and see the number. What's your name? Caitlin, and you're Rodney.
Yeah.
You're going to give me
Pulse ox, have you used these before?
Shannon, say hi, Shannon.
Hi.
Finger.
Hi.
My name is?
My name is Caitlin.
Shannon, your name
My
is?
name is
Whatever, it's better that way, but if that's not comfortable, that's what, okay, great, we're good.
Rodney, say hello. My name is.
Hello, everybody. My name is Rodney.
Hi, Rodney. Can you all raise your right hand and say you have not met Dr. K before the CypherCon and no money was exchanged? So I want you to join with this, okay? Oh, we're doing it time, 10:21. Okay, so everybody sit comfortably. And if you don't mind, I want you to sit with your back straight, you know, put your hands there so you can feel the curve there, right? 90% of good meditation is posture. And I learned that after 18 years of meditation practice, right? So you guys are lucky, you guys started. How many of you are doing this the first time you're doing meditation? Raise your hand. Ah, good, lucky for you. You're getting it the right way, good job. Okay, I want you to push your shoulders just a little bit and then bring it to that right spot. Shoulders are a big deal. Lower your shoulders, you know, move it up and down, adjust the shoulders till it's comfortable. Keep your palms open. You guys following here? And I like that they kept their feet flat on the ground as much as possible. That's a good thing. Back not resting, just straight as much as possible. You can keep your eyes closed, or if you're like Jen and you don't like to close your eyes, lower your eyes and look somewhere in the bottom. Like, you know, don't tilt your, just keep that there. Okay. Raise your hands if you can visualize your breath coming in and out. Rodney and Shannon, everybody. Raise your hand if you can visualize your breathing, so I know that. Awesome.
Keep an eye on where you're starting, by the way.
Yep.
We're looking for change.
Yep.
Don't
Okay.
worry about
How many of you can hear your breath? Okay. How many of you can feel your breath kissing your lips, upper lip? In and out. Awesome. Now these are your stars. Some of you raised your hand multiple times. You're amazingly aware creatures. You can look down at other people who can get only one sense at a time. So first one is awareness. That means you're aware of the space around the room. You can visualize the people around you, though your eyes are closed. You can hear the sounds. Awesome. Raise of hands, how many of you feel some kind of relaxation somewhere? Raise of hands. Wow. It's a big group here. So allow that relaxation to grow. How many of you can feel a sense of joy? However you define joy, as love or anything like that, or peace or whatever, raise of hands. Wow, there's a good crowd. These people were not being paid by me, I promise you that. And there's a part of your mind that's shattering and saying, what the hell is he doing? What are we going to do next? Allow that part. Don't have to force anything there. Rodney, 0 to 10, how relaxed you feel?
Probably
8?
Probably 7, 8.
So 7 and 8. Now I want you to just focus on the breath. Then I want you to go deeper in the relaxation mode. And here's the key thing about meditation. Meditation is not about relaxation. It's not about getting into an orgasmic state, right? It's about being aware of your thoughts, being aware of your sensations. You know, put your palm in your heart. Put a palm in your heart. And think of somebody you love unconditionally. It could be your spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, child, grandparents, anybody. It could be your pet dog. No cats, because Dr. K is prejudiced against cats. Have a smile on your face and bless that person. May you be happy and peaceful. May you be free from fear and suffering. May you live with love and compassion. May you fully awaken and be free. May I be happy and peaceful. May I be free from fear and suffering. May I live with love and compassion. May I fully awaken and be free. How many of you feel joy as you do this? Raise of hands. Raise the other hand. Awesome. Now, bless all the people in this room. Acknowledge everybody suffers in this room. Send it out. May we be happy and peaceful. May we be free from fear and suffering. May we live with love and compassion. May we fully awaken and be free. Okay, open your eyes and then stretch your hands up. So this, what I walked you through, is a very traditional meditation. It's called metta meditation, right? You relax and then you think good of other people, and there's a part of the brain that relaxes you, right? So let's start first with Shannon. How was the experience for you?
It's good.
What did you like about it?
It does allow me to let go a lot of just thinking about everything.
How many of you think that she's the only person who has crap in her head? All of us do, right? We have a lot of stuff in our head. And meditation is a powerful state of letting go. So that's awesome. What about you?
It was also good. I like the fact that it felt like my mind went quieter than normal for a while.
And that's the goal. The goal is not to switch it off, right? There are people who claim that they can switch off their thinking. Even having that small pause, right? Just being aware of that makes a difference. What about you, Rodney? How was it for you?
pretty relaxing. Yeah.
Okay. And what did you do with your thoughts? Did the thoughts come a lot of thoughts? Were you trying to analyze every action?
No, I just kind of blanked out. It was kind of like I had a clean slate in my mind.
And how did that make you feel?
Actually, I forgot about all the bills I need to pay.
Okay, round of applause for these people. Thank you. And I think thank you.
What's the name of the devices, by the way?
Okay, it's nothing but it's
They're
a
thermometers.
It's a regular thermometer.
It's 2 thermometers and a pulse ox.
Right.
And did you guys notice any changes in your temperature?
She went all the way to 31.0.
Yeah,
So she had a change. She didn't have a change.
And his pulse dropped what?
About 15 beats per minute.
His pulse rate dropped 15 minutes, right? And here's the thing about biofeedback devices, right? The purpose for them is not to say you're Team Nirvana. It's just a symptom of showing you're doing your practice correct. That's not the end goal. The end goal is not relaxation. And I'll talk more about enlightenment and awakening later on.
I got it, Mike. So thanks, MC Dr. K. Move on. So does anyone know what I'm sitting in here?
Yeah, sensory deprivation.
There you go, sensory deprivation chamber. So I just want to share a quick story about the sensory deprivation chamber. So in this, you know, I don't want to call it a quest, it's more of just sort of investigating interesting ideas and things like that in the biohacking space, and also being fairly interested in some of the stuff like what we just did here. I decided to go try a sensory deprivation chamber. For those of you who don't know, it's a big box that's like a massive coffin, for lack of a better term, filled
Japanese
with.
hotel.
Yeah, exactly. It has like 800 pounds of Epsom salts in it, so the buoyancy is maxed out. The water is heated to a precise temperature. It's entirely blacked out, and it's entirely quiet. And I will say, if this sounds interesting, but you have claustrophobia, what I would say, so I'm not going to try to talk you into it, but I will say the concept that you're in a thing goes away very quickly because of all of that lack of knowing what's going on. And by the way, so when I did this, from a scientific perspective, I actually took a cognitive test out in the parking lot. Then I went in and did the sensory deprivation, and then I came out and retook the same test, obviously different questions, and there was a significant increase in my scores. Very anecdotal, but I thought it was an interesting thing to do.
Did you also have adamantium on your bones after?
Right, yeah, exactly. So why do I bring this up? This is a piece of tech, effectively, or a methodology that gets us to similar, if not the same sorts of states. And in fact, there are stories of like expert meditators, I don't know what you call them, but the folks that have reached those enlightened states and those more removed kind of concepts that they put into these tanks, and their experiences have been off the charts. It's one of those things that like, I want one of these, can I put it in my house? Like so clearly that is a halfway legitimate thing, right? So what are some of the other things? Breathing techniques. So we did some breathing here, but there's all sorts of different kinds of breathing techniques. There's some that are much more active.
I'll teach one of the techniques after the talk.
There's hyperventilation and hypoventilation cycles. I mean, there's what's the, I forget what it's called. There's a breathing technique that's very active that takes you to a hallucinogenic state. So breathing is a big thing. Cold and heat exposure, you know, sitting yourself in an ice bath, sitting yourself in a sauna. Those are also the types of things that people use to get into certain mind states. Nutrition, nootropics, pharmaceuticals, psychedelics, right? Those are other things, and these all, at least in some vague way, fall into the idea of tech, right? Things that we're using that aren't meditation to try to achieve the same sort of thing. Sound and light, and then we just did some biofeedback, right? So biofeedback's another one. And another piece of biofeedback that you didn't see is, you know, like the brainwave,
EEG.
yes, thank you, the brainwave monitoring. And those are used, and she can tell you, right, those are used in many ways, not the least of which is trying to find certain states. Okay, and now I'm gonna move on. Has anyone here heard of tDCS? tDCS. Nice. So the reason I bring this up, and I'm going to tell you what it is here in a second. So we just talked about biofeedback, which is sort of a monitoring of your body's condition. But what if you could actively influence parts of your body, and in this case we're talking about the brain. What if you could do that, right? So let's talk about tDCS. tDCS stands for Transcranial Direct Current Stimulation. And it's a really interesting concept because it's got an interesting history. It is actually being used clinically and for all kinds of things. A lot of people that have challenges and they're trying to like relearn how to do things. I think they're doing ADHD actually, and DARPA has used tDCS to, they tried to use tDCS to enhance their snipers' effectiveness. And if you're interested in that, that's really interesting because it looks like it was significantly enhanced their snipers' ability to do what snipers do. But the other interesting thing about tDCS is it's relatively low tech, low barrier entry, low risk, and we'll expound on that greatly here in a minute. Low risk, and I mean, you can build a tDCS device, or you can find one for low cost. And in fact, I believe there are commercial, like not clinical, but commercial ones that you can buy. So it's already kind of finding its way into the commercial space. I bring that up because tDCS is one of those things that as a biohacker person, Jen's gotten into, and so we've done some tDCS investigation. We've done a couple of talks where we talk more deeply about tDCS and how to use it and getting people, aware of what it is and all of that kind of stuff. And in one of those talks, we met Dr. K, and I'm going to let Dr. K actually take over and tell a story about that.
So this is 2019, right? 2019, DEF CON was there in DEF CON, and I've been teaching meditation for, 15 years at that point. And like you found, right, most of you, about 70% of you, right, got that experience right away, right? You felt that. But the problem is, if you don't practice it regularly, that skill dies, right? But with some of my students, it's like riding a bicycle. Once they get that experience, they're able to recreate it. And that's the word I use, awakening, right? Enlightenment, I'm not going there. That's too highbrow stuff for me. Awakening is different. We all can experience awakening. How many of you were in a rotten relationship and one fine day the bulb went on? Right? That's awakening. What is it when you were struggling with a tough problem and that happened, right? And meditation is nothing but starting to observe your thoughts, to the point you realize, it's not me. It's my head, it's my mind, it's my thoughts. And I'm not my freaking thoughts. Okay? And it's a practice, it is a practice. And so I did this, right? So I did this for all this. So I went to DEF CON, the typical cybersecurity guy looking at cybersecurity stuff. And I saw this biohacking village. And I literally thought biohacking village had to do something with drugs and stuff like that, right? And then I saw this tDCS, and I had never heard of tDCS before that time. I went, and it was the end of the workshop, but I met Jen, and Jen was kind enough to give me a kit, and that she's going to talk about that kit. And what happens after a DEF CON, right? You have all these good intentions and nothing gets done. And then a month later, I saw that kit, and I put it together, and then I tested it out. And just blew my mind, literally. I was in that stage. The moment I plugged the circuit in, I was in that state that takes me 15, 20 minutes to get there. And I said, okay, this must be, just the great food my wife cooked for me. Because that's, right, eating is an orgasmic experience. I don't know about you guys, but for me it is. And so I did it again. Boom, it came there, right? And then I started looking at literature, and there are prescriptions available for tDCS devices for anxiety things. So then I called them up, and we were planning to come 2 years ago to do this talk. And so you are looking at 2 years worth of stuff here.
And now I'm going to rain on everyone's parade with the skeptic point of view. No, but reasonably so. Let me just talk about tDCS a little bit. So essentially, as you heard, it's using a 9-volt battery to enhance the way that your neurons fire. It's not going to fire things that aren't firing, it's just going to enhance that, or depress that if that's your goal. Now, let's start with just a little bit of history. This is a torpedo fish. One day, hundreds of years ago, a guy accidentally stepped on it and said, wow, my gout is gone, I feel better. You would think that that would be, something that just happens, but no, people kept doing it. They would take the torpedo fish, which has an electrical charge, put it against their forehead to get rid of headaches. Aristotle, Plato played around with the torpedo fish. Then we have a whole bunch of history where people were playing with electricity in ways they probably shouldn't have. Electrifying frogs, electrifying dead people with currents, with fish like this, with electric eels. We're weird. Human beings are really weird. But this is how we advance science, right? With technology, and we advance, and we create batteries now. So what happens is this technology starts incorporating into real medicine. So we take this anecdotal information, stepping on a torpedo fish cures your gout or makes it feel better. Can we validate that? Can we look at that and see if that's really working? What is happening? So I want to talk about how it's used now in the medical community, and I want to also point out that the medical community, the clinical experimentation studies are driven by people who have their own incentives. The pharmaceutical companies, the grant funding, they want to make money, essentially. So I want to point out the role of hackers and citizen science, because this is something I'm very passionate about. We are not pharmaceutical companies. We don't care about the same things. We care about how it's going to help us specifically. So Dr. K believes that tDCS can help with enlightenment and meditation. All right, great. Let's take that anecdotal evidence, go back to middle school where we learned about the scientific method, and apply it and see what we can find out. Turn it into something that we can examine and really look into. This is really important because the hacker mentality is critical here. We are such brilliant minds in this room where we can think of different things to test that the medical community is not going to test. So I'm babbling now.
Just to be clear, just to be clear, that's a lot of words to say, Dr. K, you're full of crap.
I didn't want to say it, but no. So, yes, let's examine that. I'm not going to go over the scientific method, but I'm a doctoral candidate right now. I can't just say, I think it works because it worked for me. I have to prove exactly why it works. And we do that by trying to prove that it doesn't work. So, before we go into the meat of this, I want to talk about some safety.
Yeah, I think this might be a little out of order, but that's fine. Go ahead.
But, safety is important. It's always an afterthought, but let's just talk about it real quick. 9-volt battery is not going to kill you unless you're a dumbass. Don't be a dumbass. You will win a Darwin Award, such as a Navy sailor once took a multimeter, plugged it into his body. I don't know if you know this or not, but internal resistance, we are meat sacks of liquid salt, and that's conductive. If you're using a 9-volt battery, and outside of your body it's not going to kill you. Inside your body, it's going to kill you. So if you're using a tDCS device, don't inject it into your body. Don't put probes into your body. This is external only. Don't be a dumbass. Some side effects, it's relatively safe. You might want to, ask your doctor before doing it if you have epilepsy or, things like that. But don't be a dumbass, is essentially what I'm trying to say. Okay, so we had this concept with tDCS that it might be able to enhance cognitive performance. Thank you. And we had this theory. So what we did, scientific method, citizen scientists, tried to disprove this. Can we show that it doesn't enhance cognitive performance? So we did a study, and what you're looking at here is our evidence that maybe it is applicable to enhancing cognitive performance. And we have statistically significantly shown that it did in our study. This is a small study, but it pushes science forward. It uses technology, it uses our own research, so others can repeat it. Others can try to repudiate it. Now, putting this all together, Dr. K believes tDCS can enhance mindfulness. So let's talk about that. We're taking a scientific approach to telling him he's wrong, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. So I did want to jump back really quick to a point you made about like the current state of clinical use of this technology. I think it's fairly well established its legitimacy. I think it's not widely used. There are definitely some docs that are really fans of it, and there are people that poo-poo it, and just that's understandable, right? But back to, when would you expect to see a clinical use of this to enhance meditation? Well, it's never going to come from the big clinics, because they're trying. Number one, they're trying to solve real problems. Number two, there's no money in making you feel better through meditation. And so you might, at some point in the game, you might start seeing commercial applications. You might see consumer versions of it out there that make these claims. But do they have any sort of science to back it up? Not at this point, at least, and that's what we're interested in doing. So we've crafted a study. It's we're with the intent to approach as much scientific rigor as we can apply to it, and noting the elements where it's not entirely as perfect as it could be, because we're not scientists, we're not in a clinic. So this is a self-administered program. It's a self-administered program. The data is compiled by the folks that are doing the study, and then at the end of it, obviously, we'll bring it all together and see what we find out. And that's pretty much all there is to it. I guess what I would say is, part of the reason we're talking about it is if we're looking for folks that are interested in doing it. There's a guy over here, so there we go.
Yeah.
And what I'll say about the device, so there's multiple ways in which you can get a device. We have some. I'm not trying to be a salesman necessarily, but we have some that we can sell you. We can also, we've got a website that talks about how to build one. There's other resources of people that have built them. And I think that's mostly it.
I need to do, say, achieving ohms through ohms. That's a pretty cool study.
Yeah.
Do you agree there?
Yeah. And by the way,
That's Jen's credit.
you'll notice there's no hypothesis yet here, but I think you understand what the hypothesis is like. I think our hypothesis.
I think he is wrong.
Yeah, that's pretty much what the hypothesis is going to be, and then see if we can prove that to the contrary. So we'd like to get people that are interested in doing it. We're going to do it ourselves as subjects, but the more folks, obviously, we can get involved, the bigger the data set, the more interesting the results, obviously. And how do you get involved? It's really going to come down to reaching out to us. There's QR codes and links for the websites, and
yeah, please take a picture of this if you want to contact us.
I promise it's not malware.
And if you go to that website and send me an email, I'll send you a bunch of meditations. That's my promise.
So, I miss anything?
No, just I want to emphasize, because we're gonna take some questions, but there's still a section left after questions. But I want to emphasize, you in this room have the chance to advance this forward scientifically as citizens, as hackers, as citizen scientists. So I'm excited to have this community be a part of that.
Yeah, so we're going to open it up for questions for a little bit, but also stick around, because as prep for the next talk, we're going to do one more of Dr. K's
this is the energizing meditation.
exercises to try to get yourself prepared for the rest of the day. So anyone have any
Questions?
Yes, sir.
What was the sample size of the test that showed?
So the sample size was 2 people, but the time was several weeks.
There were enough data points to be able to show it statistically significant,
Yes.
but it wasn't N=2 study, which is something that is interesting enough to have others repeat it in a larger study.
Yeah.
It's not definitive. by any means.
I would not go and tell somebody that we proved
Yeah.
something solidly. This is just a way to say, this is interesting, maybe we should do more. Any other questions? Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay.
But just real quick, I know we had the 3 archetypes, the believer, the seeker, the skeptic. As you go through this next short phase here before the rest of the conference, try to be open to all 3 of those and analyze it from a hacker mindset, a skeptic mindset, a believer mindset, a seeker mindset. Thank you.
Okay, let me plug this up.
Yes. Yes, I'll help by standing.
There we go. You can actually
Very
sit for
good.
this one. Actually, yes. Okay, so here I'm going to play the other side, right? Meditation always is about chilling out and relaxing and come out of a stressful day. I got a confession to make. I tend to have panic attacks and anxiety attacks, right? I'm scared of heights. And what did I do? Last month I was in Florida. I went to a lighthouse, 200 steps, right? I walked to the first 100 steps and I have an anxiety attack, right? Brain does only 2 things when it's in a panic attack: fight or flee. Meditation offers us the third. I stood for a few minutes, and I'm going to teach you the same breathing exercise. And this is in that page. If you go to my blog, it'll be there. It's called, Beating Test Anxiety. It's beating anxiety. Okay? Here's the magic thing that people don't tell us. There's a difference between emotions and feelings. Okay? Go back, put this together, put your fist together again. This is your brain. Put it together. Help me, humor me here, because it's going to help you later on. This thumbs is our limbic system. Our emotions come here. When you have anxiety, it's real. Your body injects all kinds of chemicals in your body, and you feel that. For me, when I was in that 100 step, my heart was beating. I could feel that heart beating. And my body was telling me, run back, you sucker, you're going to die when you reach the top. Right? And all I did was, and this is the magic, right? For 2 minutes, that's all. You can use your watch. 2 minutes, I stood still and I watched my breathing. Okay? And there's a particular style of breathing. This is being made popular by Navy SEALs. There are 2 kinds. One is called the box breathing, and one is called the 4-6 breathing. So I want you all to put your palms in your belly and just follow that cycle. Inhale, exhale. I'm going to do this just for 1 minute. And the goal is not to feel relaxed. The goal is to be aware of your body. Pretty easy to follow, right? Anybody have trouble following these instructions? Okay, so that's 1 minute. How many of you feel relaxed already? Raise your hands. Okay, about 25% of you, right? I want all of you to stand up now. Okay, how many of you deal with anxiety and depression of some sort? Raise your hands. Almost all of us, right? If you have a pulse, you deal with that. So go ahead. So next time you do this, right, and you're in the middle of the meeting with your boss, you're having an anxiety attack, say, hey, I got to do this, Dr. K taught me this. Is that deal? Okay, put your interlace your fingers. Okay, inhale. Long exhale, through blow like you're blowing a candle. Inhale, fast inhale. Exhale. Now remember, the blowing through the mouth along is very important part. Okay, that's what triggers that relaxation response. Again, one more time. Inhale. Inhale. Exhale, long exhale. Inhale. Exhale. You can sit down now. So this is the key, right? The nice thing about this is you can learn it fairly quickly. And you don't have to be perfect. The only thing you have to remember is to inhale through your nose fairly rapidly and exhale blowing like a candle, but slow and long. That's the easiest one you can do. Can you be fine-tuned? Can you put this app in your phone? Absolutely. Now how do I use this, right? I get test anxiety, right? And I'm doing my CISSP or all that, right? So when I practice my quiz, every 20 questions, I do a 2-minute break. And if you have done CISP or any other exams, if you keep a good pace, you can reach those 150 questions in whatever time you did. Here's the clincher for you. I'm not promising all of you. I got my CISP done in 100 questions, right? And I think 25% was I was calmer than other people who tend to panic, right? So this is the key thing. So what we're going to do is just 5 breaths each. We're going to do cycles of 5 breaths. You got 2 minutes to go? Okay. We'll get this done in 2 minutes. How's that? Okay. So inhale, exhale, sit comfortably, feet back off, and we're going to get it done in 2 minutes. So first breath cycle, focus on your body. If there's any sense of anxiety, breathe it out. Hold, inhale, hold. And you don't have to be perfect with this. This is called a box breathe. This is what the Navy SEALs use it. Okay, the next 5 cycles, just focus on your breath. 5 cycles, just focus on your breath. And if thoughts come in, just let them go.
If you want to do this with your eyes closed, you can just use a 4 count or something.
Yeah, you can use 4 counts too. Yeah. You can do it with your eyes. Now the last 5 cycles, I want you to pick out a word that you want. Confidence, compassion, whatever you want. Pick that. And literally inhale those strengths. And this is all you're doing with this exercise, is that whatever that anxiety attack comes, that's emotion, right? You give it 2 minutes to dissipate, and then you put in, you examine your feelings. Okay, thank you so much. My name is Dr. K. That's Jen. And that's Darren. Please come by and say hello to us.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Thank you.